Hey guys, Kitchen Table Magician here. Welcome to another episode of 6-Pack of MTG. We were going to open 6 packs of sealed Magic cards and build us a 40 card deck. And in the spirit of sealed Magic, the first pack I open, I will do as though I were drafting, and we'll make a pick out of that first pack. So this week's set is going to be Amonkhet. So without further ado, let's get into this. Opening pack 1. Like I said, we're just going to go through this and we'll make a pick real quick. I've really found Amonkhet to be a spectacular set to draft and just to do sealed builds with, and even 60 card standard builds. It's a very well designed set. It's probably the best designed set for in a long time, in my opinion. Okay, Desert Celadon. This is always considered, I always consider this first pickable. Simply because you can cycle it out for 1 red if you don't need it, and it's a huge beat stick. So I will put this at the top. If I don't see anything else, that will probably be my first pick. Forsake the Worldly is a sideboardy kind of a card. So it is nice that it cycles, but that's a sideboard for later. I mean, you do need these kinds of picks in sealed, but... Okay, this is more of a niche card. This guy, 4/2, can become indestructible if you cycle or discard a card. So that could be something later to fill out your deck if you're getting into that kind of a strategy. Spidery Grasp, I find this to be more of a combat trick for later on, not first pick. Shimmerscale Drake is potentially first pickable if there's nothing else in the pack. I would actually probably take the Drake over the Celadon simply because it flies, and again, you can still cycle it out. Cradle of the Accursed is not first pickable at all. Ashra Cultivator, I don't find to be first pickable. This is too little, too light. Electrify deals 4 damage to target creature. This might not be first pickable, but it's definitely second pickable, maybe even third. This is really good removal, really, really good. It might be first pickable. Okay, so there's some good stuff in here. So Shimmerscale Drake or Electrify is at the top of the stack right now. Painful Lessons, this will be for later. Slither Blade, this is nice, but for a later pick. Battlefield Scavenger, you may exile it. If you do, whenever you exile a creature, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. Oh yeah, this guy's really good for pillaging. This is good in the aggro strategy, but for a later pick. Open into Wonder, X target creatures can't be blocked this turn. Those creatures gain whether this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This would be for later too. Lifelink 4/3. When it enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter. This will be good for a later pick as well. Nice to round it out. All right, so the rare in the pack is Prepare to Fight. Prepare is untapped target creature. It gets +2/+2 engage lifelink till the end of the turn. Fight is basically removal. So this is actually the best of both worlds right here. This is a combat trick and a removal card all in one. So this is going to be tough. I would take probably the Prepare to Fight over the Electrify at this point because this is strictly removal. So the decision is, do you want the Evasive Flyer or do I want the Prepare to Fight, which is a combat trick and removal? And I honestly think I will probably take the Prepare to Fight. I think this is good utility. So that will be my pick for this pack. All right, so let's get into these other 5 packs real quick. I'll go through these packs a lot quicker. We'll just kind of take a peek at the back side of the rares real quick. I'll skim through the commons quickly. We have an Onward to Victory, a Flameblade Adept, a Grasping Dunes, and our rare is Cruel Reality. Enchantment, it's a curse. At the beginning of an enchanted player's upkeep, that player sacks a creature or planeswalker. If he can't, he or she loses 5 life. This is really brutal. All right. Moving into pack 2. All right, we have the Mana Cores moving through to the back here. There's the commons. All right, Ruthless Sniper. This guy's such a bomb. Wow. Okay, always happy to get one of these in my card pool. Always, always, always happy to get a scaled Behemoth in my card pool. Renewed Faith. Oh, nice. We have Rhonas in here too. Okay, so I'm gonna go with this deck is gonna include green. No doubt about it. And since we have the Prepare to Fight, then we know we've got a piece of green removal too from that first pack. So this deck is definitely going to lean on the green side, no doubt. Let's see what else we get into here. Hapatra's Mark, True Heart Twins, Trial of Solidarity. Oh, and a nice black-green or black-blue dual. Always looking for those. In fact, I'm going to need this for my Approach of the Seven Suns cycling deck that I have. So, and a foily Vizier of Remedies. All right. Pack 5. Wow. I'm not very good at this. There we go. Okay. Moving through the commons real quickly. Get into another Open into Wonder, an Embalmer's Tools, a Ketra's Monument for the white creatures and go wide, and the clone that embalms. This is actually a pretty solid card. I always like this card. It'll be nice to clone that Hexproofer. That would be cool. All right. And last pack. The final pack. Going through this real quickly. Nice, we got an Evolving Wilds. I'm always happy to see that in my sealed card pools as well. Lay Claim, start to finish. Another Grasping Dunes, and the rare is Insult to Injury. So this is a nice aggro card and a little bit of damage later on. Not the best card, but it's okay. Alright, so that's the 6 packs. What I'm going to do is sort out the card pools, and we'll evaluate those a little bit closer, and then we'll go build a deck. Okay, so I've had time to go through the card pool, sort it out by color, and evaluate things. So as usual, I'm going to start with the lands first real quick so we get a quick overview of that, and then I'll run through the colors, starting with what I think is the weakest color in this pool and move on to the stronger colors that I think I'll be building with. So starting with Fetid Pools, this is a nice dual black, blue, and cycles. So I have that to work with if I get into those colors. I have an Evolving Wilds. I'm always happy to see this in a sealed card pool. It just gives you options. As well as Painted Bluffs. This is a nice filter. Will let you get into a third color very easily. So I have lots of fixing there. These other 3 lands, Graspy Dunes, Cradle of the Accursed, are not playable. I'm not going to play with those. All right, so with that in mind, we'll move into the colors. Of this pool, I think that white is overall the weakest, even though it has Compulsory Rest, which is an extremely good piece of removal, and an Impeccable Timing, which is okay. I have 2 Winged Shepherds, which are 6 mana for flyers, and that's it. The rest of white is very so-so. It's mostly filler. The spells aren't that great, so I'm probably just going to stay out of it. Okay, red's got a little bit more going for it. It's got a bomb in Desert Ceradon that I can cycle out, and it does have some very good removal. Electrify and Magma Spray, and a Manticore of the Gauntlet, which is a body and removal. Other than that, once again, we're just back to filler and spells that are okay, but not, I don't think, worth getting into. But there's enough nice removal here that I might look into splashing into red. All right, next we have black. Black may not look as impressive as red on the surface, but there's some synergy in here that I really like. It does have the 2 bombs. It's got Horror of the Broken Lands, 4/4 for 5 that I can cycle out. And then it's got this one. I know I'm going to play with this in this pool. This will win games. So I know I'm going to get into Cruel Reality. Other than that, I just have a Blighted Bat and then some other creatures that are good filler. But I think these Minotaurs will probably play very well with that Cursed Reality. And I'll explain why later. Okay, moving into blue. I've got a Vizier of the Many Faces, which doesn't look like a bomb on the surface, but has the potential to be. It's a clone that embalms. I have a River Serpent, and then I have some flyers, and I have a Lay Claim, which can swing games too, and then a nice piece of removal here, and a couple of Essence Scatters, and then the rest is a lot of filler, but it's actually pretty decent. Of the filler in the colors we've seen so far, I think blue's got the best. So all around, blue's very solid. And then my strongest color by far in this pool is green. I've got 3 cards right off the top that I would consider to be bombs. Rhonas the Indomitable, and then Scaled Behemoth, which has hexproof, and Colossipede, 5/5 for 5. So I've got 3 really big beat sticky kind of cards. I have one of the best pieces of removal that green has to offer in Cartouche of Strength. And then another a Spidery Grass, which is probably removal. A Stinging Shot, which is removal, but it's kind of sideboardy and conditional. But then the rest of green is, I think, solid enough to look at getting into. So we'll look into that. Okay, the multicolored cards. Based on the rest of the card pool, these aren't bad cards. Prepare to Fight is not a bad card. I just don't know if I'm going to be getting into the white part of it. Start to Finish, same thing. This is not a bad card. It's a good card, but I just don't know if I'm going to be getting into the white half of it. Onward to Victory, I don't think I'll play with. It just doesn't fit the mix that I have today. And then Aketra's Monument, Embalmer's Tools, and Luxor Riverside. Aketra Monument is probably playable if the build is right. Embalmer's Tools and Luxor River Shrine are not. Alright, so that's the card pool. Let's go see what we can build. Alright, so the deck came out green, black, and blue, as I suspected it would. And for this video, I wanted to show the deck a little bit differently than I have in past videos. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what I think about when I'm building from a sealed pool, and what I'm looking for, and the things I want to play with. First thing to think about is your mana curve. And so starting down here at this end, we start really low with some 1-drops, a lot of 2-drops. Work your way up the curve. You don't want to get too heavy, usually, on the 7s and 6s and 5-drops. But you'll see in this mix I've actually got quite a few of them. But the thing is, most of them cycle, so I know I'm not going to get stuck with them in my hand, and I can peel out of them early in the game if I need to by cycling them. In fact, of these 6 up here at the top of my mana curve, only 2 of them, the Cruel Reality and the Scaled Behemoth, have the potential to just get stuck in my hand early. Everything else I can cycle out of. So that's okay with me. I'm okay with that. Also for this mix, I'm running 17 lands, so I've got 15 basics and a dual, and then I've got a pair of lands that I can filter or do mana fixing with the Painted Bluff and the Evolving Wild. And that's important too. If you're going to get into 3 colors, you need to make sure that you have the lands to sustain it. Alright, so let's start at the bottom. You're looking for value and efficiency. So at the bottom here, I have a 1-drop, 1/2 that's unblockable with Slither Blade, and I have Ruthless Sniper, which when I scry or discard a card, I can pay 1 to put a -1/-1 counter on a creature. So this is 2 things. It's an early 1-drop, and it's removal all in one package. This is really efficient. In the 2-drop slot, I'm going to run a couple of Essence Scatters, because I want to try and probably grind out my opponent a little bit early and just hopefully maybe stall the early board up. So 2 of those, and then the rest of this is creatures. And again, I'm looking for value and efficiency. So a 2/1 for 2, and it has Embalm for 4, so it can come back later in the game. 1/2 for 2, but it taps to add mana to your mana pool, so it's a nice accelerant. 2/2 for 2, but it has Exile that gives it +1/+0 and Death Touch. This is really efficient in this format. It's either going to come through, if you exert it, it's either going to do damage to your opponent or it's going to kill something as it comes through. Those are the only 2 outcomes, so it's very good. And then Seeker of Insight, a 1/3 for 2. This is going to do a lot of work for you in a sealed build like this too. If you get it early, it's got a big enough body that it will sustain, it'll be able to survive like Magma Spray and that kind of thing. It can also block a lot of smaller things like 2/2s and 1/2s early. And then later in the game, it can get you some card draw. So this has got a lot of value with it too. So it's a good card. That's Seeker of Insight. Okay, moving up to 3-drops. I ran 2 Cursed Minotaurs because they're going to play very, very well with the Cruel Reality. When Cruel Reality is on the board, your opponent is going to have to sacrifice creatures or lose a lot of life. Those are the options. And so they're going to have a very, very hard time blocking creatures with Menace. And these guys are 3/2 with Menace, so that's really good. And then, of course, we have this guy, Rhonas the Indomitable. This is an absolute bomb. Death Touch, indestructible, 5/5 for 3. The only thing is it can't attack or block unless you have a creature with 4 or greater, but his ability at the bottom will enable that, no problem at all. So this is going to be incredibly difficult to deal with. So these are the other things you're looking for in your sealed pool. You want cards that are going to be absolute win conditions, and Rhonas is a win condition. And that's what you want to build around. Okay, then I have a couple of pieces of control/removal. This is Cartouche of Strength, which when it comes into play, a creature you control gets +1/+1 and has trample and fights an opponent's creature, so it's basically removal at that point. And Illusory Wrappings, which will slow down a creature that your opponent is trying to play with by making them 0/2. The rest of this deck, I believe, is pretty much creatures. Giant Spider, 4-drop, 2/4 with reach. I really like this guy in this format. He just sits and does a really good job of gumming up the board. It's your opponent's got to play around this. Aven Initiate, 4 mana, 3/2 flying. It embalms for 7, so you've got a nice evasive flyer. And later in the game, if you need him back, you can get him. So he's got some staying power, and once your opponent's dealt with him, you might have to deal with him again later in the game. Okay, this I think is a bomb as well. Maybe not as obvious as the others, but this can be. This is a clone for 4 mana. It's basically a clone, and it embalms for 5. So once your opponent has dealt with it, you can embalm it later in the game and make him even into something even nastier. Okay, then moving up, we've got some 5-drops. Again, I'm okay with this. 3/4 flying for 5, but it cycles out for 2, so that's okay. And Horror of the Broken Lands is a 5-drop that cycles out for 1. So I'm okay with playing these because I'm going to get card draw off of them if I can't get into them early enough. I'll just trade them out. Same thing with River Serpent. 6/6, 5/5. It can't attack or block unless there are 5 or more cards in your graveyard. That's okay. If you get to the point where you can play this, that condition will be met every time. Most of the time, I'm probably going to cycle this, but I'm okay with that. Okay, this guy is another one of these win conditions. This is what you're looking for. 6/7 hexproof for 6 mana. This is a win condition. Your opponent is going to have a very hard time dealing with something like this. The fact that I had this and a Rhonas in my card mix, I immediately knew that I was going to play with green. It didn't even matter what else was in that color in my card pool. These two were absolute bombs. And then I have a Lay Claim, which is going to cycle out most of the time, but can potentially win you the game late if you need it. You control Enchanted Permanent. It's an enchantment. And then finally, of course, Cruel Reality, which is also a bomb. If you play this and it lands and it sticks around on the board for a few turns, you're probably just going to win the game. So those were the things I was looking for. These 3 cards I identified right away as win conditions, that I was definitely going to be building my deck around black and green. And I was going to hope to stay in 2 colors, but I wound up having to get into the blue as well. But that's okay because I had the mana fixing to support it. All right, so as always, hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, like, and subscribe. And until next time.